Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business Today with Karen Yolevski, who is COO of Royal LePage. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mario.
Well, we're going to talk about foreign home buyers. And recently, the federal government announced that it was extending its ban for 2 years. Can you explain just a little bit, first of all, Karen, of what the foreign home buyers ban is all about?
Sure. So a couple years ago, the federal government, in an attempt to constrain some demand on our already undersupplied housing in Canada, implemented a ban on foreign buyers. So those are buyers that are outside of Canada, buyers from different countries, subject to some exclusions. So there wasn't a full-out blanket ban. There were some ways to buy certain areas based on sort of size and population of those areas. People that are in the country with certain permits, that was okay. But overall, what happened was that if you were a citizen of even the US as an example, you weren't going to be able to buy in general real estate in Canada. And that's what they've gone ahead and extended.
Okay, in terms of the reasons for it, what was the main reason for first initially, I guess, putting this into place, and then obviously for extending it?
So the reason really was an attempt to counteract the hot demand for housing across Canada. So we know that a lot of people want to buy homes. They still do want to buy homes. And a few years ago, that pressure was even more intense. So, in an attempt to take some buyers out of the market and make some room for some buyers that were in the country, had already well established roots in the country, the ban was put in place. So the reasoning behind extending the ban is the same reason. The government hasn't changed the reasoning behind the extension of the ban. It's still an attempt to constrain some demand because the housing supply in Canada still is not large enough to support all of that demand that's out there.
So, what has this impact been on the housing market in Canada because of this legislation?
Well, it's very little in terms of the impact. So when the ban first came into place, we had said that foreign buyers do not make up a large percentage of buyers in Canada. We're talking about very low single digits that are
Yeah.
foreign investment. So when you take that out of the market, you're not really taking much demand out of the market, right? Because that number is so low to begin with. So the impact, we believe, was very minimal. And the current impact from extending the ban is going to continue to be minimal because there just isn't that much foreign buying activity occurring.
Yeah. Now, when you look at the market across Canada and in relation to this legislation, is it mostly geared to Vancouver?
Well, it's going to be geared to places that have seen historically more foreign investment than other places. So, areas where we've seen investment in Canada, certainly Vancouver is one of them. Toronto would also be another one. And we've seen other regulatory elements in places like Toronto, Vancouver around vacant homes, in Vancouver around foreign buyers from a taxation perspective. So, certainly there is more of that activity happening in our larger urban centers, being Vancouver and Toronto, but it's not to the exclusion of anywhere in Canada. The ban would be right across the country.
Now, in your experience, Karen, over the years, why do foreign people from other countries buy property in Canada? Is it for eventually moving here? Is it for just flipping it eventually to make a profit, or is it to rent out their properties to get cash flow?
All of those and more. So just like anyone who's buying property, there is a reason behind that. Some of that's going to be about personal use. So, you're coming to the country, or in many cases, students. So the children of people investing in Canada were coming to Canada to study. So there was a reason to invest in real estate. We know the rental market, the prices are quite high, and equity builds quickly in our large cities in Canada and Canadian real estate. So it could have made more sense to buy property for students. Canada is also a very safe place to invest money. So there's the idea that the investment is going to be safe, and that we've seen historically in Canada, prices have risen. We go back 10, 15 years, prices have been in an upwards trajectory. So it's a place where your money is also going to grow in a relatively safe investment.
All right, super. Thanks, Karen, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
All right, that was Karen Yolevski, who is COO of Royal LePage. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.